Let me know you're ready.
Camera rolling.
Camera rolling. Quiet on the set.
It's on you.
All right. First, state your name.
Rebecca Wilson.
Okay, and what do you do, Rebecca?
I'm a photographer.
All right, Rebecca, tell me a little bit about yourself.
I am a photographer who lives in St. Louis. I went to Webster University. I went to school when my son went back to school. I went back to school and I've been doing photography work for about 7 years.
Okay, and what got you into photography?
I think I've always just liked imagery. I don't know if it's because I don't really like to read. I'd rather look at pictures. I grew up looking at photographs of family. I'm pretty disengaged from my family, and I think I was just drawn to something like that in the documentary work that comes along with it.
Why are you disengaged from your family?
They're batshit crazy.
You want her to respond like, I'm disengaged from family.
Yeah, you're right. When I ask a question, then answer the question by placing the question in the question. So,
you're going to edit this, right? So I can ask questions throughout it. Can I do that? Or no, I just got that look.
so
You mean you ask questions?
If I ask you how long have you been affiliated with the paper, I've been with the Evening Whirl for boom boom boom.
Okay.
So.
Just like you did in school.
So-
Answer incomplete.
Incomplete sentence.
Yeah.
They didn't have video lights on me at school.
All right, so that's going to be our next question. Sit back in your position.
Yes, sir.
How long have you been affiliated with the paper?
A number of years, about 5 years.
How long have you been affiliated with the paper?
I've been affiliated with the paper for off and on for about 5 years. When I am working, Brian usually gives me stories, or I've used in the past, because before Ferguson I used scanners to go out and find crime scenes to photograph.
Okay, tell me a little bit more about your affiliation with the newspaper.
Like when you say my affiliation with paper, like a day-to-day, how that goes for me? It's largely based on week to week. So I'll listen to a scanner, try to get some idea of where there's crime. Sometimes I spend 2 or 3 hours just driving around different areas that I know are high crime areas. I rely on Brian to send me out to stories, and I edit those, I send them off, and he accompanies those with the print.
What do the St. Louis Evening Whirl mean to the city of St. Louis?
The St. Louis Evening Whirl means to St. Louis. I think it's a great documentary magazine or newspaper that allows St. Louis and St. Louis residents to focus on what is the crime and what is going on. And once I think a community starts doing that, pinpointing where these crimes are going on, whether they are on the north side or the south side, and you can start to look at how these communities are developing and why certain communities will call the police and why certain communities will not call the police.
Why do you think certain communities would call the police, and why do you think certain communities will not call the police?
It's a double-edged sword. You're asking me a question. I believe that certain communities will call the police first because they believe in the police. They believe in that society. They believe that police are there to help them fight crime and that that's going to help them. I think that certain communities aren't as quick because they don't believe that, because they haven't seen that, because in their opinion, the police are there to judge them, to thwart them, to hurt them. And even if you have a community that believes in the police force, which I think we can across the board say that we don't in St. Louis, at least not on the north side, you still have to overcome that fear of retaliation. If you call on your neighbor and they shot somebody, they're going to shoot you as well.
Now, what's the, you mentioned North Side, as far as your experience with the Evening Whirl in the city of St. Louis crime, what's the, where do you see the most concentrated crime area here in St. Louis?
In St. Louis, the largest pockets of crime, I know that we would normally say the north side. I think there's a lot of coverage on the north side. I see just as much crime on the south side. I have friends who live on the south side, so even beyond the paper, I'm involved in my community. I think you see pockets like Thekla is a really horrible street, for instance. So you would see pockets of crime in these areas. I don't personally think that you see more crime on the north side versus the south side, but I do think you see more reporting of the crime on the north side than the south side.
Okay, this next question, you being a female, you're a photographer.
My whole life.
You've been a female your entire life.
I've been a female my entire life.
And a photographer. How do you feel when you go to a crime scene? How does that work for you? You know, is there any fears? You feel secure. How do you feel when you're on these crime scenes?
How do I feel when I go to a crime scene as a female? Fortunately, I have a lot of naivety in me, so a lot of times I can just shun everything out and pretend like I will be fine anyway. And once I get past that, I'm 5 foot tall, I'm a white female, I live in a very racist city, both black to white and white to black. I have camera equipment on me that is a little bit more expensive than what you would typically see with somebody. So I do get nervous about my safety, not when I'm on the crime scene, because there's something about being in that population that just takes away the fear, but moreover when I leave, if somebody was to follow me or knock me down at my car, those kind of fears do exist.
What interests you most about working with the Evening Whirl?
The biggest thing that interests me about working with the Evening Whirl is that it makes me feel like I'm more involved in my city, that I understand a little bit more about what's going on. There's been a number of times when I've been able to talk to maybe a community leader who happened to show up there, or a detective, and you start to put kind of a culture behind the paper. Instead of it being a number you read in the newspaper, so many people died this year, you start to understand that person. I talked to their neighbor and he offered me a soda. I talked to a community leader and said these children are coming in and out of the community centers. So for me to work with the paper, it introduces me to my community, and I think we all should have that to one degree or another.
What you just mentioned is that you get to talk to the detective. Talk to me a little bit more about that. What's your experience in being on a crime scene, talking with law enforcement?
Well, my experience, Brian has more of the experience speaking with law enforcement and detectives than I do, so mine's pretty limited. In my limited experience, a lot of it's a card exchange. Is there anything you can tell me about what's going on here? There's been a couple times where I could get them to kind of move over, for photo ops, sometimes you want to ask them, can you stand a little closer together? I know that's not photojournalism, but it does go a long way to be able to communicate to somebody, I need to see this, and viewers need to see that, and have them rearrange themselves around it.
You've been a photographer. How important is photography to crime?
If used properly, I think photography is very important to crime. A lot of times people don't want to read the numbers or the words, or they don't agree with what's going on. We live in a very media-centered society, Facebook, social platforms, LinkedIn. I believe they get a lot of their popularity through imagery. People are more apt to look at a photo and then be intrigued about what's going on than words on a sheet.
Okay. Describe to me a day in your life, your professional life.
You sure? Personal life's pretty exciting. A day in a professional life, it varies from day to day. From getting in touch with Brian, or maybe calling another resource, or going out to lunch with somebody, calling around, seeing what's really going on, if there's anything going on, maybe going out and just shooting and being aware of my environment and staying connected. There's not one particular day that's the same as the other one.
Okay, give me a day in the life of your personal life.
Well, I like to get up and get my day started with some yoga and making phone calls. Never mind. I already told Brian I was going to be really scandalous, but I'm not going to. I assured them that I wouldn't talk about the clown porn that I produce, or ensuring that, the older generation gets the opportunity to see foot fetish on video, whether it's cows or ducks or small, cats and dogs. It's really hard to juggle that with the crime because, both of them are kind of sketchy, but people prefer the clown porn over the actual crimes.
Did you say?
I told an ex-boyfriend's parents once because I got so nervous and they said, "What do you do?" I said, "I produce clown porn."
Did you say clown porn? Like
Not real, but no real porn.
I don't produce.
Just say
I tried to. I looked into
Say that.
producing porn, but it's
Yeah, that'd be
really
good.
hard to
Say
break
that.
into.
Didn't like that shit.
what's clown porn?
Like clowns, like big bow ties and noses.
Kinky stuff.
The world is changing too fast for me. Oh man. Okay. Next question, please. Why do you think a TV show about the Evening Whirl newspaper is a good idea?
Good golly, I think it's a great idea to have a reality show about this newspaper, specifically a crime one, specifically in St. Louis. Just besides the fun factor, obviously the engaging factor of it, people like train wrecks, you know? Besides that, I think that it could give people a general understanding or a real understanding of what it means to be in a city that has this level of poverty, that has this level of racism, that has this level of issues with their education system, issues with food, issues with jobs, again, issues with racism and crime. You can start to see a cultural thing, I think, if we do a reality show. And maybe people can stretch beyond the St. Louis is a high crime place, don't go there. You know, maybe people can say, yeah, it's a high crime place, but crime can happen anywhere. And if you have these systematic things in place where you have poverty on top of poverty, you have racism, you have people who don't want to go to the police, you have children who aren't being educated in school. On top of that, now they're saying they want to take on more refugees. Where is this money going to go? I think it can give a broader scope of how communities are developed.
That's close.
Tell me your most memorable Evening Whirl story.
My most memorable Evening Whirl story? Well, it's been a number of years. I was in the Central West End, I believe is where I started, or maybe up north, and Delmar, there's a Delmar divide, and then you go into U City, which is a county. And there was a police chase that over one car that ended up in another county, University City County, and two blocks of police cars, of fire engines, of ambulances, for both the city and the county. So that was the most exciting one, because at that point I thought, you know, this is a great time for somebody to rob a bank, because there are tons of police officers here for this one gentleman. And at the end of the day, the story that I saw being produced on the news was a lot different than the story I saw on the front steps of a house. That was the most interesting.
You did really good.
Yeah,
You
that's
did
good.
excellent.